The iPAQ was first made public in April of 2000 by Compaq just before its acquisition by Hewlett-Packard HP in 2002. It was marketed as a mobile PDA, a term we don't really hear anymore that stands for Personal Digital Assistant. The first iteration, the H3600, had a grayscale display and ran on Pocket PC 2000, which is based on Windows CE, which later evolved into Windows Mobile. The H3600 series, an example of which I have here, was a successor to the H3100 and now utilized a color display. Both had directional pads on their front, just below the screen, and 4 action buttons. The touch interface, which utilized resistive technology, truly relied on a stylus for accurate use. Resistive panels, which have essentially been replaced by capacitive screens these days, use thin, transparent, electrically resistive layers that have a gap between them. When they are pressed and make contact, they can register as a touch on the device. Capacitive screens, like the ones on your modern smartphone, also use multiple layers, but they are made of glass. These conduct electricity and react to your touch because of your alteration of the electrical field. Functionally, in the realm of practicality, the key differences are that resistive screens require pressure, and usually do not support multi-touch. Actions such as pinch to zoom just wouldn't work. This device ran on a strong ARM CPU, clocked at 206 MHz, and had 32 MB of RAM. My Pixel 4 XL, a modern-day device, okay, probably not the best example of a top-end spec monster, has 6 GB of RAM. I was lucky enough to be able to convince my mom to buy me this device around the time I was graduating high school and starting college. This meant that my primary use for this device was games. There was no embedded Wi-Fi here, so I was stuck with whatever I could find online and transfer via proprietary dock that connected through USB. My personal go-to game was an Arkanoid clone, which is essentially a brick or block breaker, and I enjoyed it very thoroughly. Interestingly, I had a flip phone from T-Mobile at that time and found a data cable online that would allow me to use the phone as a modem. Maybe this is the first example of tethering? I connected it to my iPAQ so that I could use AOL Instant Messenger. I was definitely one of the cool kids, as you can see. Unfortunately, this was my myopic view of the world at the time, as my goal was to sit near my friend's window and send messages from outside until he realized what was going on. I had also gotten an expansion pack that allowed me to use compact flashcards, one being 128 megabytes, allowing me to store a very limited number of MP3s. They mostly consisted of Smash Mouth. Again, cool kid here. In the case of this device, it unfortunately did not retain any of my original data, as the battery has long since died. It now functions as a brand new device every time I connect a power source. The screen has also become particularly odd in that it either shows up backwards, inverted, upside down, or in complete gibberish. Squeezing it seems to restore temporarily, but I can't get it to function with the expansion sleeve. Unless it's in the dock, of course, then I can apply a certain amount of pressure while it's in the dock and temporarily use it before I go crazy with applying so much pressure with my left hand. Okay, so here I am putting it in the dock. I have the sleeve on it. I have the dock here. The whole device is on. I am putting a lot of pressure with my left thumb onto the device so that the screen doesn't invert or turn completely weird. So let's see if we can get through this and look at some of the functionality of the device in this current state while it's fairly stable before my thumb gets too tired. And we can see some of the things that it used to be able to do that is basic functionality, maybe 5% of basic functionality of modern day devices. Again, I had to go through that entire setup because I unplugged the device and it no longer holds any charge at all. So with things from September 3rd, 2001. So this is kind of where you can do various things like set up your owner information. You can put your name, company, address, and any notes you might want. These days, you probably expect things for medical history or etc. Something you might want somebody to know in case they found you down on the ground and didn't know what happened. You can do some same here with putting some appointments in. This is very common for PDAs to have and is supposed to be the way you replace a notebook, and that's what we'll look at. Email, same thing. If you synced up your Outlook, you can do it this way. You can add new services by entering the email and adding the POP3 and IMAP information in here. Various different options that aren't that specific, but it looks like this expansion pack is still working, and we actually have some space on it. So maybe we'll peek in the file explorer and see what I actually had on that expansion card in a little bit. Otherwise, if you go into Start, you can see the generic list of programs here, including Internet Explorer, which isn't going to do too much, but you can find out how to get connected. Let's find out how to get connected, actually. Connect to the internet. So it tries to establish whether you're on the internet or not. I think if you're connected to ActiveSync, it could actually go online on the device itself. So you could still do those kinds of things and maybe sync some websites. Oh, here we go. This is what happens when I stop applying pressure that specific way. So let's realign and try this again. Okay, so notes, very basic. You can draw in there. Doesn't look too bad, actually. It's not pressure sensitive in the sense that I can't write or change the size of my stroke, but there it is. It saves it automatically. Contacts, you could have your address book in here, of course. Temporary fix. Games, solitaire is here, so you could quickly play through this style solitaire. Not much to do here. You know, this kind of some mishap. So you'd want to get the kings over into the blank sides, get the aces in here. Well, I'm not going to explain solitaire. Let's see. Fixing this up. Going back to programs, standard calculator with some little skin on it, but it does basic functionality. I think you can even get some more currency exchange features in there. You can receive infrared. You can back up to the Compaq flash card. And then of course it has a couple of basic spreadsheet and Microsoft Word. So very, very basic. You can enter some numbers here, and then if you select them, it'll tell you easy functions, average, sum, tell you the minimum, etc. Luckily, it all auto-saves when you close it. Same with Word. Now the fun part is if you're not typing with the keyboard, you could use a letter recognizer, a block recognizer, so I could write. Yeah, it doesn't really work that well. I think the letter one actually works better. This is, and you put spaces with dashes. See, I can't even put a something like that. I think if you can get the hang of this if you practice a little bit, but I'm out of practice and we don't all have to do this. Most of us probably use the keyboard and swipe, which we don't have here. So let's take a look at File Explorer and see if we can find anything on the device. In the storage card, what do we have here? Looks like some kind of a dictionary. Oh my goodness. Okay. So this is a translator, English to Spanish. Exciting stuff. Let's go back out of there. Back to the storage card. So this might be a game. And I think this is a shoot 'em up game, if it works right. But let's see. Oh yeah. Not too shabby. I think you actually have to use the D-pad and the buttons. But this was pretty cool. The problem is, how are we going to get out of it? Okay, well anyway, I'm frustrated with this device at this point. As you can see, as soon as I take it off the charger, it will turn off. I can put the PSP charger back in, but I have to pop this out. But essentially, this is what it looks like. You can have the Compaq flash card that's in the expansion sleeve, which is not particularly easy to use, or pocket friendly. But a lot of people use holsters for this kind of thing. A little excessive, but still interesting nonetheless to see how far technology has come these days. Compaq flash, 128 megabytes on this, not gigabytes. Let's pop this back in. I think it's this way. Yeah. Anyway, that was a short look at one of my first mobile devices that combined functionality of office tasks and games, which I definitely did not make use of, except for playing some simple games and sending some messages tethered to my flip phone. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.